Should I go ahead or wait or what? Well, while we're waiting, compliments of, one more time, Amol Bakshi. He came up with some answers to some questions. Today we had a little discussion about Krishna's mentioning that he had killed Ekalavya, and where is that talked about? So it was in relation to Katotkacha, and Krishna saying, if Karna hadn't killed him, I would have, because. And then he also explained how he arranged for the killing of others, Jarasandha and Ekalavya, not just the cutting of his thumb, but the killing of Ekalavya. And Krishna killed Ekalavya. I killed Ekalavya. So I asked, Amol, can you do some research on that? It says, and the Shabda Parva, it gives an indication that Ekalavya was present at Maharaj Yudhishthira's Rajasuya Yagya. When Yudhishthira asked Bhishmadev, who was the greatest personality assembled, amongst those assembled, Bhishma said it was Krishna. And after Bhishma glorified Krishna, Shishupal had his thing to say. When the invincible Bhishmaka and King Pandya, possessed of every auspicious mark, and that foremost of kings, Rukmini, and Ekalavya and Shalya, the king of Madras, are here, how, O son of Pandu, that's Yudhishthira, but he's objecting to Bhishmadev. How have you offered the first worship unto Krishna? So, Ekalavya, Shalya, king of Madras, that's an old translation, Madras, during the British rule. Invincible Bhishmaka and king of Pandya, Rukmini. Okay, so that's in Shabda Parva. Next is Ud Yoga Parva. We read some things from Ud Yoga Parva yesterday. And so there's some exchanges between the Pandavas and the Kauravas with entreaties about peace. Sanjaya is seated in the royal court. All the Kurus are assembled. Sanjaya is relaying a message from Arjuna. And part of Arjuna's message is glorification of Krishna. And mentioned is there some of the maniac personalities killed by Krishna. So this is Arjuna's message to the Kauravas, delivered through Sanjaya, where Krishna is saying, Ekalavya, the king of Nishadas, always used to challenge Krishna to battle. But slain by Krishna, he lay dead like the Asura Jamba, violently thrashed on a hillock. Now I don't know who's the Asura Jamba, Jambha, Jambasura. But Krishna killed Ekalavya. That's Ud Yoga Parva. In the Mausalya Parva, you know what that is, that's the annihilation of the Dwarka residents. This occurs very close to the end of Mahabharata. Krishna has already departed from his abode. The Yadus have destroyed themselves due to the Rishi's curse. Arjuna has gone to Dwarka after hearing the news. There he consoles the wives of Krishna and meets Vasudeva. Vasudeva is terribly lamenting. Among the things Vasudeva says to Arjuna is, how is it that Lord of the universe, the slayer of Madhu, who has put forth his prowess by achieving the destruction of Keshi and Kamsa and Shishupal, the Chaitya king, swelling with pride, and Ekalavya, the son of the ruler of the Nishadas. Alas, how could he remain indifferent to such a calamity as the curse denounced by the rishis? And there's many other personalities killed by Krishna, and the list is a long list, but Ekalavya is spoken by Vasudeva as one of the demons killed by Krishna. And then, this is from Purnapragya's Drona Parva. This is from that section spoken after Krishna speaking after Ghatotkacha's death. O son of Kunti, if Jarasandha, Shishupal, and Ekalavya, the Nishada prince, had not been slain by me, then they would have become unbearably powerful, and they would have aligned themselves with Duryodhana to fight against you in this great war. So, Krishna killed him. Then there's some reference from Hari Vangsha. Ekalavya might have been a cousin of Krishna. Here's what it says in Hari Vangsha. The fourth brother of Vasudeva, named Anadrishti, begot in his wife Ashmaki an illustrious son named Nivritashatru, and Devashrava, the third brother of Vasudeva, begot a son by the name Shatrughna. There is hearsay, interesting, that Devashrava had another son who, for some reason, was discarded in his infant stage and brought up by tribal people, and they called him Ekalavya. And Wikipedia says that Ekalavya was killed by Krishna when he tried to attack Dwarka, which doesn't make sense. No, it's possible. No, it's not possible, because the Kurukshetra battle was before. Anyway, when he tried to attack Dwarka and the Yadavas, no scriptural reference. The Bhavishya Parva of Harivamsa contains an extensive description. So, Bhavishya Parva of the Harivamsa has an extensive description of the attack of Paundraka on Dwarka, and Ekalavya was also accompanying him in that attack. Paundraka. So the chronology of when the Kurukshetra battle took place. Krishna's residence certainly by that time was Dwarka. Anyway, after Krishna kills Paundraka from Harivamsa, chapter 102 of Harivamsa describes what happened to Ekalavya after that. Vaishampayana said, "Oh, Janamejaya, after that, Balaram struck Ekalavya's chest and roared like a lion." Sounds like Balaram's going to kill him. Then, filled with anger, the king of the Nishadas struck the chest of Balaram with his mace. After that, Balaram attacked Ekalavya, who ran towards the sea, which was the residence of crocodiles and other sea creatures. That often mentions the sea as being a place where there's crocodiles. Crocodiles don't go in the sea. Anyway. Seeing Ekalavya run away in this manner, Balaram also started to chase him. Wherever Ekalavya went, Balaram followed. O king, upon entering the sea, Ekalavya, the king of the Nishadas, went a distance of 5 yojanas, which is 5 times 8, 40 miles out to the sea, and stayed there in fear of Lord Balaram. Then he entered some other islands and started living there. In this way, Balaram was victorious over the king of the Nishadas. Harivamsa. But nowhere in Harivamsa is there mention of Ekalavya being killed by Krishna. So Balaram chased him, but Krishna killed him. But what that was like, no luck. But Krishna killed him, because he says so in Mahabharata. Okay, now we're continuing from where we left off this morning. 10:14:22. Therefore, let me preface before we start. This is going to be, it's a little complicated, but in principle it's simple. And that the principle is 2 things. There's spiritual Maya, and that's Yoga Maya, and there's Mahamaya. And the second thing is, Jiva Goswami is going to continue to give multiple references where it says Maya means this, and Maya means that, and Maya means the other thing. And he concludes by saying, Sridhar Swami says, you take the meaning that's appropriate for the context. So in case you get lost with this reference, that reference, the other reference, just remember the conclusion as we go along. And that is, according to context, there are different meanings according to Scripture. And we take the meaning, Sridhar Swami says, according to context. Now back, again, there's spiritual and material. And there's diversity within the spiritual, and there's lots of diversity within the material. Forms of, or features of Maya, or qualities or aspects of Maya. That's it. Any questions? Here we go. Here's the verse. Therefore, Brahma says, this entire universe, which is like a dream, is by nature unreal, nevertheless appears real, and thus it covers one's consciousness and assails one with repeated miseries. This universe appears real because it is manifested by the potency of illusion emanating from you, whose unlimited transcendental forms are full of eternal happiness and knowledge. Now, we heard the first time we went through this, right, the BBT purport says it's not real, then it's real. And it's real is referenced from Madhvacharya's teachings, because Madhvacharya says it's real. You know, his Dvaitavad. Now, Dvaitavad can mean there's the living entity and there's Vishnu, and that means there's 2. But another Panchabheda is there 5 differences, and their differences are real. So his teaching, and he gives scriptural reference, that this material energy is real, not false like a dream, or false like it just doesn't exist. It's temporary like a dream, but it does exist. Okay. Jiva Goswami continuing. Hey, this is this celebrated verse from Vishnu Purana. Maybe some of you know this one, because it's repeated so many times. Ekadesha statasyagir jyotishna vistadani yata. Yata, like the light from the sun. Vistarani, Jyotishna Vistarani. But as light expands from the sun, Parasha Brahmana Shaktis Tatedam Akilam Jagat. Jagat, this universe. So the whole universe is an energy of the Supreme Lord, like distribution of light from fire, situated elsewhere. Not the sun, fire. So the universe is an energy of Vishnu, which is likened to light distributed from a fire. It's an energy of the fire, light distributed from the fire. It's real. Light from the fire isn't like a dream. Shruti also says, Mayam tu prakritim vidyan, mayinam tu maheshwaram. Sritashvatara Upanishad says, know that Maya refers to his nature, that's who's his, the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord is master of that Maya. So it's not false, in absolute false. Jagat Mithya. And then here's next sentence, Prakriti, in this verse, Svetashvatara Upanishad verse, refers to swabhava or nature in the above verse. To make the knowledge useful, the intention is to say, quote, know that it is not synonymous with the Lord. Shakti, Shaktiman, they're not the same, although the light of the fire and the fire, they're luminous, but they're not one thing. Since knowledge would be incomplete from lack of full description by simply stating a definition. That's an interesting notion, isn't it? Make a definition of something, but if it's doesn't have a full description, like this is a drum. Okay, great. What kind of drum? It's a full description, it's still a drum. And what's a drum? Well, a drum is da-da-da-da-da. Okay, but it's not complete. It's incomplete. Knowledge would be incomplete from lack of full description by simply stating a definition. So the definition now is what's Maya? What's the Lord's energy? He continues, Jiva Goswami, the meaning is established with the sentence, but the Lord is the master of Maya, unquote, quote, unquote. The Lord is the master of Maya. By saying this, it is understood Maya is under the control of the Lord, meaning, A, the Lord is not controlled by Maya, and B, it's real because he controls it. It's of him like the light from the fire. This also indicates that the Lord's condition is self-contained and natural. He's not dependent upon the light, or he's not dependent upon the universe. He's not dependent upon his energies. They don't exist without him, but he's independent. He's self-contained and natural. That statement is similar to saying, I don't understand this, brave Indra is the possessor of Maya. That's supposed to clear things up. I don't get it. Paragraph. Being external, now we're getting into, this paragraph I'm about to read is refuting Sri Vaishnavism. The Sri Vaishnava concept that qualities are inherent within an object or within the source. Vishishta Advaita. Vishishta means an attribute. And the idea is the attribute is inherent within the possessor of that attribute. So at the source of everything is Vishnu or Krishna or the Supreme. So inherent within Krishna are so many things. And the things can be manifest or not manifest, but there's a relationship, a non-dual, a Dvaita relationship between Vishishta and the possessor of the Vishishta. Yes? Are you clear with that? Yes. No. Yeah. There's a black chair. The example that's used is a blue lotus. The blueness is not separate from the lotus. A blue lotus has blueness. And the blueness doesn't just exist on its own. It's connected to the blue lotus. So the attributes of something are inherently within that something. The black chair or whatever it is, the object. It has some attributes inherently within it. So that taking that principle, the source of the personality of Godhead, and within the personality of Godhead there's so many attributes. And there's living entities, and there's his expansions, and there's Prakriti, and there's a relationship of oneness of Prakriti with the possessor of Prakriti. Being external, that Maya is not intrinsic. Intrinsic. So we heard these other terms, not just like snow you with terms, but it's that if you hear them again, a bell ring. Oh, I heard that one before. Angsa, angsi, bhava. You heard that one, right? Angsi, angsa means a part. And the one that possesses the part is the angsi. Like, avatari and avatar. Avatari is the source of the avatars, and there's the avatars. And the avatars are within the avatari. So the parts, the angsas, are within the angsi, the possessor of the parts. The example is a tree and its branches. The branches have no separate existence. The angsas have no separate existence from the angsi. Material nature, now we'll go to this, you're talking about the universe, but it's just being used to speak about Shakti and the relationship between Shakti and the possessor of Shakti. What's that relationship? So the Sri Vaishnavas say, well, the Shakti is intrinsic within Shaktiman. It's an attribute of. It's a Vishishta of. However, what Jiva Goswami is saying, we don't buy that because Maya is external and therefore not intrinsic. Although from the source, it's an external energy. That is shown in the example of Maya being like light spreading out from a fire. Since Maya is external, the Lord is not contaminated by its faults. Get it? Faults. So here's the material world, and people suffer in the material world. So if there's a non-dual relationship between the world and the source of the world, then God's implicated in the fault of suffering. He's the cause, it's him, it's not a non-different relationship between him and suffering, or any other fault. So Lord Chaitanya's teaching doesn't accept that, doesn't speak like that. Madhva's definitely doesn't speak like that. They're separate. They're real, and they're separate. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Arjuna speaks. Chapter 7, that's the Ashvatthama, killing the sleeping sons of Draupadi and all that. Arjuna says to Krishna, you are the original Lord. Tvam Adya Purusha Sakshad Ishvara Prakriti Para. Mayam, here's the Maya. Mayam Vyudhasya Chit Chaktya. So Chit Shakti. That's spiritual energy, right? Chit Shakti. And then there's Maya Shakti. So you are situated in your spiritual form, being one with your spiritual energy and separate from your material energy. Two energies. And there's a relationship of oneness with the spiritual, and external is the other one. The spiritual energy described as superior in Vishnu Purana. I can read the Sanskrit. Translation reads, if I offer respects to the Lord's superior energy, which cannot be described by words, and the mind, beyond knowledge and the knower, another realm beside the material mind. As the Lord's spiritual energy, it is intrinsic to him. Most inconceivable, performs many functions, and is thus equated with the Lord. So now we have two Mayas, and we're just getting this picture of the relationship between the energies and the energetic. Sambandha again. You have to get there's two. But, some people don't have that. So here comes a nice one. We know this Svetashvatara Upanishad verse. We've heard it so many times. Datashchakaryam karanam cha vidyate, datatsamascha vyadikasya drishyate. You know how it ends? Parashashaktir vivadaiva shruyate, swabhavaki jnana balakriyacha. Let's do it again, because it's like Prabhupada speaks it all the time. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, nat tat samascha vyadikasya drishyate, prasya shaktir vivadaiva shruyate, swabhavaki jnana balakriyacha. And his translation is a little different than Prabhupada's, but here it goes. He has no body and no senses. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. No one is equal to him. Natat samash. Or higher. Chabadikasha drishyate. His supreme power is manifold. Parasya shaktir. Vivadaiva shruyate. Finally, his actions are naturally revealed. Swabhavaki. With knowledge and strength. That's his kriya, Swabhavaki kriya. His actions are naturally revealed with knowledge and strength. Paragraph. In stating the Lord has no equal or superior, it is understood that his spiritual energy is intrinsic, by which he does what he does. Inconceivable and not dependent on other objects, and without superimposition of other objects. And superimposition is a Mayavad term. Maya superimposes itself over Brahman. Or the form of Vishnu is a superimposition of rarefied goodness upon Brahman. It's an upadi. Vishnu is an upadi. Living entities are an upadi, because all there is Brahman. You just start from that platform. So the superimposition, you don't see the real thing because it's something covering it or superimposed over it. But this statement is, he's refuting Mayavad philosophy. He's dealing with the folks out there that have different ideas than Lord Chaitanya's ideas, according to the Bhagavatam. He's explaining it in terms of the Bhagavatam and other scriptures. So, the energy, the spiritual energy of Vishnu or Krishna is not dependent upon anything else, and there's nothing else that superimposes upon it. This Shakti is called Yogamaya. in the third canto description of the Kumaras going to Vaikuntha. We heard that yesterday. The Kumaras get to the gates of Vaikuntha and they see Narayan. They speak about what they see to Narayan. And they speak of his Yogamaya, spiritual potency. And is called Chit Shakti by Sridhar Swami. But that's right in the verse we read, Chit Shakti. Madhvacharya, in his commentary, says, I'll read the Sanskrit, Yogamaya cha maya cha. There's two. Tatech cha shaktir, Ichishakti. Tata Ichishakti eva cha. Maya sambedena banyate shabde tatva artavedi bihi. Or those who know the meaning of the words define Maya as, okay, here goes, take your choice. Yogamaya, Maya, or Ichishakti. In this case, the Maya refers to the internal, but Maya outstanding alone can refer to the external. But Yogamaya is always internal. Ichishakti is always internal. Maya can mean the internal potency. There's another reference, I don't know the scripture, Shabda Mahodadi. Quote, because the Lord is endowed with his external Shakti, arising from his Swarup, because from Krishna's form comes everything, right? Including the illusory potency. But in this case, it sounds like his eternal, not external, I read it wrong. Because the Lord is endowed with his eternal Shakti arising from his Swarup, eternal Vishnu is called Mahamaya. So now here we go. Like so the definitions of things are getting jumbled up now. Sometimes it means this by scriptural authority, sometimes it means that. And we're going to get to, Sridhar Swami says, we take the meaning per context. Okay, thank you for being clear. As proved by the Shrutis, the word Maya, like the word Yogamaya, refers to the Lord's spiritual potency. In this case, even Mahamaya refers to the Lord's spiritual potency because of the context. Sridhar Swami, in his commentary on Bhagavatam 3.5.25, says that Maya is obedient to the glance of the Lord. That's in relation to creation. Mahavishnu glances. And he's glancing over Maya, Pradhan in this case. But she is obedient to him. In his commentary 2 verses earlier, 3.5.23, he says that Atmech cha, that's Atma Icha, the desire of Atma, means Maya. This is made clear in later verses. Then comes 2 verses in a row. This is the BBT translation, it's not Jiva's. Bhagavan, Lord of Mahavaikuntha, in his Svang's expansion as the Purusha for the potency, at a certain moment of time, placed the Jivas into Maya, which became agitated by the gunas. Impelled by time, from the invisible Prakriti arose Mahatattva, composed of knowledge, in Sattva-guna. This manifests the universe situated within itself and destroys ignorance. Now, commentary would have to be going through to understand all that. But what he wants to do is say that the desire of the living entity, that's this Atma, Icha, Atma Icha is desire. obviously, because it's involved in creation, it has to do with material desire. So Maya can mean different things depending upon context, simply. In the Bhagavatam, here we go again. Balaram calls the energy of his brother Vimohini. That's chapter 13, 10:13. 10:13 is the chapter where the cowherd boys are actually Krishna with the mothers, and the calves are Krishna with the mothers, and Balaram doesn't detect it till towards the end of the chapter, the end of the year, and he goes, wait a minute. This is my brother's deluding potency, Mohini. So, Mohini will become very bewildered by his potency. That Maya means mercy, according to Vishva Prakash Dictionary. Trikanda Shesha says Maya means, here's another meaning, illusion or intelligence. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the same chapter 13, the word Maya simply means influence. So it's like popcorn. And there comes another one. Since the Lord has no fault in revealing Maya, and the examples show this, namely, according to Sridhar Swami, that the word Maya should have its meaning according to each particular instance, all is in agreement. So Maya is very flexible. Krishna's energy does what Krishna wants his energy to do, and it can have this feature, that feature, the other feature, and it's known according to the feature it displays. That's the context idea. In this section, that's these verses, prayers by Brahma, because he's speaking about the universe. In this section, Maya means the Lord's inconceivable energy. And then he refers to Bhagavad Gita 9:4. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina vatstani sarvabhutani nachaham te shavashtata. I, Krishna, pervade the entire universe by my form invisible to material senses, since I am the cause. All entities are situated in me, since I am their cause, but I am not in them, since I am completely detached. If the Lord does not touch Maya, his presence there is illusion. Wait a minute. He's saying he's present, but he's not touching Maya, so it's an illusion. He appears to be there, but you can't see him anyways. That place is illusion. The energy. So they're not real like a dream. It's moving. Justifying different perspectives depending upon context. That place is illusion. That is true. However, the superior energy of the Lord is a manifestation of his Swarup in Vaikuntha and other places. From the Bhagavatam 2.9.10. 2.9.10 is before the creation, Brahma appears on the lotus and he's doing his tapa and so forth. There is no influence of Maya at all, what to speak of its products such as material elements. In Vaikuntha, the inhabitants are fully dedicated to the Lord and are worshipable by the devas, asuras, and devotees. So this is speaking of the spiritual realm. I'll read it again. There, in the spiritual realm, there is no influence of Maya at all, but to speak of its products, such as material elements. In Vaikuntha, the inhabitants are fully dedicated to the Lord and are worshipable. The inhabitants are worshipable by the devas, asuras, and devotees. then it goes to Canto 10, chapter 28. Canto 10, chapter 28 is the chapter where Nanda is kidnapped by Varuna on the Dwadasi morning, thinking he's observing Dwadasi wrongly, so they kidnapped him, took him to Varuna's abode. Krishna went to Varuna's abode. Give me back Nanda. So, Hari revealed to the cowherd men his abode, which is beyond material darkness. They when they came back, it was like, who is he? And if he's the personality Godhead, maybe he'll show us his abode. So knowing that, Krishna showed them his abode. Hari revealed to the cowherd men his abode, which is beyond material darkness. Again, we have two kinds of Maya. And even amongst those two kinds of Maya, there's diversities of nomenclature and definitions and how those potencies are doing things. Here's again chapter 13. This is Balaram checking out Krishna's program with the cowherd boys and the calves. And then this is this is Shukadeva Goswami describing what happened afterwards, after the illusion or the forgetfulness of Balaram was removed. Then now he's just summarizing. Shukadeva Goswami says, when Brahma became bewildered about what he saw and was no longer able to look at these forms, which were inconceivable, expansions of Krishna's power, self-revealing, proved by the scriptures through negation of matter, and which were beyond matter, Krishna, understanding his bewilderment, immediately removed the covering created by his energy. Mission accomplished. It's under his control, not he's controlled by it. Again, chapter 13. The forms all had eternal, unlimited forms, full of knowledge and bliss, which were one form. Their great glory was not even to be touched by the Atma Gyanis. We're almost done. Should I stop? Okay, keep going. Okay, almost done. This manifestation of the Lord is indestructible. It doesn't mean the universe is, it's what he showed to Brahma. And he showed it and he withdrew it, but it's not destroyed. Again, quoting Canto 2, chapter 9. In Vaikuntha, there is no rajas or tamas, and no sattva mixed with rajas and tamas. There is no influence of time. There's no influence of Maya at all. What to speak of its products, such as material elements. In Vaikuntha, the inhabitants are fully dedicated to the Lord, and are worshipable by the devas, asuras, and devotees. Sounds familiar. We had a shorter version of that. From Vishnu Purana. Listen to the word pure and then a definition. May the Lord, who is pure Shakti, is not affected by the division of time, be merciful to me. Vishnu Purana. Pure in this verse means not subject to transformation of time. There's activity in the spiritual realm by Krishna's Yogamaya potency, but it's not subject to time. Activities in this mature realm is subject to time. So his spiritual, pure potency is not subject to time. But there's activity, which is very amazing. This refers to the Lord's great intrinsic Shakti. The inferior energy is not of this sort. This material energy is a billionth portion of his energy. This was mentioned as well in the quotation from Vishnu Purana, quote, Sargadya Bhava Shaktayaha. This is repeated several times in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this Vishnu Purana reference. The creative energies bring about creation, maintenance, and annihilation. That's one of his features of Maya. Creation, maintenance, annihilation. But it's the material. Last. Eshamaya Bhagavata Sarga, right, that's creation. Sarga Stiti, maintenance. Anta, Karani, annihilation. Tri Varna, Varnitasmabi, Kim Bhuya, Shrotam, Ichishakti. Now this is discussions by the Navyogendras to Nimi, where they've just explained, he wanted to know what's with Maya, so they told him. I have now described Maya, the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord, which consists of the three modes of material nature and causes creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material universe. Now, what more do you wish to hear? Like how to get out of it, right? That's the commentary says. That's what he's. Why don't you ask the next question? How to get out of the influence of Maya? One should consider the material energy in this way. So, and for this evening, we're getting a very careful analysis of the relationship between Krishna and his potency, Shakti and Shaktiman. And we're getting that there's spiritual and material Shakti. Hasn't yet touched on the jiva, the marginal, but spiritual and material potencies, and there's divisions of what the spiritual does and divisions of what the material does. The spiritual is intrinsic. It's of him directly. The other is not. It's external to him, extrinsic or not intrinsic. And so that's very similar to Madhva's teachings. There's the Lord and his Prakriti, and they're real. It's one of the 5 Panchabhedas. The verse, however, speaks of, it appears to be like a dream, or it appears to be real. And it sometimes appears to be a dream, a bad dream. And sometimes it appears to be real. And so the appears to be real part is, we heard, because it's a semblance of real, because it's in touch with the Lord, but not directly in touch with the Lord. It's from him ultimately, and therefore it's a semblance of reality. That's how the whammy of Maya works. It appears to be real because there is some connection. But part of the whammy is we don't see the connection because it has illusory potency. It covers, this is the superimposing thing. Illusion covers the consciousness of the actual connection. It's philosophical, and you it could be, if somebody's heart is very simple, they can just engage things in Krishna service and be happy. The problem is we often engage things in sense gratification, not in service to Krishna, so we don't get happy. And so, why am I not happy? I want to be happy. So it's illusory potency. Well, how does that work? And so it's how it works. Philosophy is needed to help, you can say, to guide our activities, so we can see Prakriti as it is. It's using, I like that example from this morning, it's paraphernalia to be used, although it's not real. It's not real in the absolute sense of it's permanent. The forms are not permanent, that's for sure. That Christmas tree out there, I mean, whoever put all those lights up on that tree, they must have used a ladder. And they could fall off the ladder taking the lights down. Maybe just leave them up all year round. But you know, all these people with all these Christmas decorations in front of the houses, it took a while to put them up, and they're going to have to come down. That's just, you know, now you see it, now you don't. It goes in the garage or some storage place somewhere until next season. So anyway, there's changes all the time with the material energy. But it has its connection, so we can, with Krishna, so we can use it in service to Krishna. That's how we should use it. And that's proper detachment. Yukta Vairagya. That's the teaching of Lord Chaitanya. Anasaktasya Vishayan Yataram Updhyunjitaha Yabanda Krishna Sambande Yuktam Vairagya Uchate. Because with spiritual life, an essential element is detachment. Detachment from what? Detachment from illusion. We're not detached from stuff, just be detached from illusion. And so what's detachment from illusion look like? It's using things in service to the source of things. The problem with that is we're attached. We're trying to use things in service to Krishna. We get attached real fast to your shoes, or to, you know, like there's this famous, well, not famous, it's a often repeated story in Ramanujacharya's life. There was a you know the story? There was a wrestler and his girlfriend. He was a wrestler in the service of the king. And Ramanujacharya and his associates were watching a procession. You know that they take the deity, the Utsav deity from the temple, and they have practically festivals every day with, you know, all the instruments and this and that. And so everyone lines up along the street and pays their respect to the deity that's going on procession. And while this was going on, Ramanujacharya and his associates, sannyasis, were seeing just on the opposite side of the street was this, you know, big hulking guy, not paying any attention to the procession. He's just staring at the eyes of his girlfriend. And Ramanujacharya remarked, he said, "Doesn't this man have any shame? When the procession passes, ask him to come see me." And so he came, and Ramanuja said, what were you doing? And he said, "I was gazing at the eyes of my beloved wife. There's nothing more beautiful." And Ramanuja said, "If I could show you eyes that are more beautiful, would you let go of that fascination you have?" I said, "Yes." So he took him to right before Ranganath, and he became overwhelmed with the beauty of Ranganath's eyes, and he took shelter of Ranganath. And his wife followed behind. So they became great devotees of Ramanujacharya and Lord Narayan, but they had wealth. And the sannyasi disciples were faulting or talking behind his back that Ramanujacharya is giving so much attention to this sense gratifier guy, and his girlfriend, or he had them become married, so they became the husband and wife. So Lord Chaitanya said, I'll teach them a lesson. Not Lord Chaitanya. Ramanuja said, I'll teach them a lesson. He said, you're reporting this to me. You go at night when the sannyasis are asleep, and you just move their dhotis around. And watch what happens when they wake up in the morning. Who took my dhoti? Etc. So they were attached to their dhotis. And then the same person, okay, now go invite the wrestler to come see me, and when he comes to see me, go inside his home and steal the gold ornaments from his wife and see what happens. So she was asleep, and he stole gold ornaments from this side, and she rolled over and stole the gold ornaments from the other side. And then her husband came home and said, what happened? Said, these poor mendicants, they were so poor that they came to steal. So when he stole from one side, then I rolled over so he could steal from the other side, or something. Her husband was saying, how did you? He wasn't faulting her for allowing them to steal. He was faulting them for, why did you move or something. She said, I wanted to have them have both sides, both the earrings from both, or the ornaments from both sides, something like that. So then the person reported this back to Lord Chaitanya. Although they had wealth, they weren't attached to it, is the point. And the sannyasis were renounced, but they weren't renounced. So attachment is not just give stuff up. That's the idea. Real renunciation is to utilize things in the Lord's service. Whether you have something or you don't. You have abundance or you have not much. Use what you have in service to Krishna. That's real detachment. And it's not easy, because so what's beneath the external is, are you attached to Krishna or not? That's bhakti. And if you're attached to Krishna, you can go through anything in life. And if you're not attached to Krishna, you have a rough ride in the world of duality. That's just how it is. So how to get to that attachment to Krishna is just hearing about his wonderful pastime, but also hearing about how his energies are working, spiritual material. So we can navigate our way through, the practical affairs of life. When we're not hearing, Krishna book stories, we're doing stuff, maybe you get attached. And how do you not get attached when you're doing stuff? To hear more stories, maybe. Or have more kirtan. But they're practical affairs of life. We need to understand what's the relationship of the material energy to the Supreme Lord, and what's the connection with the spiritual energy. So anyway, these are philosophical points, and they differ from one sampradaya to another, even one branch of a sampradaya to another. Let's see if there's some discussion. All right.
So I tried my best to pay attention and understand, and I don't know if these questions are beyond me, but I'm going to see if I can ask them anyways.
I tried to boil it down to pretty simple.
Yeah, it was a lot easier to follow. Thank you so much.
Fine. Thank you.
Okay, so in between you mentioned about the spiritual energy being inherent to the Lord.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned that there's nothing equal to or superior to the Lord, which is another way of understanding that the spiritual energy is inherent with the Lord.
Yes, correct.
Then we also understand that Krishna's energy does whatever he wants, so it's subservient to
Yes.
him.
Yep.
So can we see it as like maybe like a saintly person controlling their senses, that kind of relationship, kind of like it's part of them, but
Well, the saintly person can control their senses if and only if they're connected to the spiritual potency. And that makes them a saint. That's what their saintly person is. They're connected to the spiritual potency. So, but your question, just to complete it, their senses are material, but beneath the material senses, there are spiritual senses. Right? And so those spiritual senses will direct the coverings of the material senses, provided they're connected to the Supreme Lord or him or his spiritual energy. In other words, by bhakti, one becomes a holy person, a saint, a sadhu, male or female. Bodies, because of the consciousness of bhakti. They become sense-controlled people. So the answer to your question is yes.
okay. That we can see them both in a similar.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And then I wanted to know, is there a difference between Yogamaya and Ichishakti?
They're almost interchangeable. They mean different things. Icha means desire, and Yogamaya is the potency by which it fulfills its desire. It's the same, it's just, a different perspective on the same entity.
Okay. And then, at the end you were talking about how we have aspirations in the material world.
Yes.
It's not, so is it the correct understanding that we don't throw them away, but we have to purify ourselves so that we can use those properly, those
Yes.
aspirations?
Yes.
Okay.
And connecting the objects of the senses, or that which one may be desiring, with the pleasure of Krishna. That's sense control. I don't extend my senses when it's for selfish enjoyment. I do extend my senses into the world of objects when it's for Krishna's service. That's sense control. That's a spiritual potency. Kijai.
Yeah. The way I see it right now, because I'm not, super purified or anything,
Yeah.
it's like I want something, and then I justify that it can be used in Krishna service. So then if
It's called dovetail.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I had a clarification.
So when you dovetail, just make sure, it's because otherwise you'll fall in the ditch if you don't. Make sure that you stay in the side that it's meant, although there's a mix. I like something, but I can offer that to Krishna, so here we go. So try to keep focus on it can be offered to Krishna part. It's actually meant for Krishna's pleasure part, and then you'll be protected. And if not, you'll justify and you'll find yourself in the ditch. And they're all muddy and like, oh gosh, what had happened again? Okay.
I wanted to clarify one part. So we are also Krishna's energy.
Yeah.
But the difference between us and Krishna's subservient energy is that we are not, or I am not very subservient, which is why I'm here.
Yeah.
And
we're marginal.
Yeah.
So now keep going.
And the only reason we can be here, because you were mentioning like the branches can't be disconnected from the
wither.
tree. Yeah, exactly. So the only reason we can be but we want it to be separate.
Yeah.
So Krishna is
Facilitating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turn again. That reconnecting a branch to a tree doesn't really work so well. And so metaphors have their limitations. But connecting ourselves again to Krishna works well because we're actually part of Krishna. We're the Angsa, Mame Vangsa, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta. So we're Angsas. We're meant to be connected to Krishna through service. So it works because it's natural. Okay. Very good.
So Maharaj, towards the end of the class, we were hearing the pastime of Ramanujacharya.
Ramanujacharya.
Yeah. So, like I was thinking that this wrestler, he just took like very little association of Ramanujacharya and his heart is transformed.
Yep.
So it looks like that.
He's a special soul. Although he was attached to the eyes of his girlfriend.
So, like we hear in the scriptures that Lavamata Sadhu Sangha, just like a moment of the association can change the heart.
Yeah.
So, what is it that is from the side of the disciple? Like,
What's wrong with us?
Huh?
Why is it taking so long for us? Something like that?
Yeah, I mean, what is it that we are missing in our heart that, it's just the attachment to Krishna is, yeah.
Attachment to the temporary holds us back from the attachment to the eternal. No, he was attached. He was like in front of the deity and in a religious procession in Sri Rangam, and he's like, shamelessly conducting himself like a fool. But there was something inside that it was able to ignite very quickly. So what's missing? We're still wet wood. We're still attached to the temporary. We're not igniting so quickly. But that's okay. We are where we are. So what to do, because of we're wet wood, or the attachment to the temporary is so strong. We don't lament or kick ourselves or beat ourselves up. We act from the position that is where we are, and we keep moving with faith towards, and by striving by right means, to the purified position. Just like this little example from before, or question.
I have
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah, sure.
So Maharaj, we're also hearing that, like in the spiritual world, like there is no influence of time. It's the Yogamaya potency that is actually instrumenting all the activities to happen and all the pastimes to take place. Like, is there a description, like how does it happen? Because we don't have a perception of it here. It's all like time changes things, but like the seasons are according to the time, the sun is rising according to the time, everything is based on time.
Yes.
So like how does it like change in the spiritual world, like in the
How are there events when there's no time?
Yeah.
How does it work? I guess we're gonna have to wait till we get there. It's Yogamaya. It's not Mahamaya. Mahamaya works with time as we know it, past, present, future, and the spiritual works with time that's eternal. And the influence of time is different. So the actions or activities or leelas or pastimes or everything's, it's acting by spiritual potency. That's how it happens. What's it like to be acting according to spiritual potency? Well, we can get a sense of timelessness through absorption in bhakti. And then you were doing something, let's supposing, whatever it is, something that you really just find it easy to get absorbed in, whatever that something is. It's whatever it is. For some people it's this and that and the other thing. The devotees that have described when they're really absorbed in chanting, in kirtan or japa or something, or whatever, something that you're really enjoying. You're not even aware of time passing.
Thank you, Maharaj.
That's how spiritual activity and time work. It's timeless. It's just absorption in Krishna. But then there's this continuous flow of bhavas and exchanges with Krishna for the, particularly for, let's say, for the residents of Vrindavan. It's just an endless flow, like waves in an ocean or in a river. It doesn't stop. Prema rasa. Madhamangal.
As a clarification, we hear the example of how electricity can be used to...
How what?
Electricity can be used to or manipulated to convert from heat to cold as we desire.
Yeah.
And in that, analogously, we hear that how, based on our disposition, Krishna's energy, whether it is Yogamaya or Mahamaya, if we are favorably disposed, then we can be engaged under the Yogamaya or the spiritual potency. If you have inimical attitude, then the Mahamaya. I'm just trying to understand, based on what I heard from you this evening, it seems like it's not that the one energy that's changing in my, I guess, very crude words like shape or form. Rather, it's actually two different entities of one is the internal potency, another is external potency, not that one potency that perhaps the influence of one may get reduced depending on our disposition, but both energies are still acting. Is that the right understanding? Because when you mentioned the Advaita and Visishta Advaita, I was trying to understand how the Gaudiya understanding is distinct.
The Gaudiya understanding you repeated at the very beginning. Electricity. And an example from scripture is Yogamaya becomes Durga. It's one entity, one person. She becomes Durga. She's known in the world that way, but it's actually the same entity, Yogamaya. And let's say, here we are situated in your house. The external energy can act to bewilder, or the external energy can act to elevate. And then it's no longer acting like external energy, it's acting like internal energy. Although it's temporary. It's paraphernalia that has a spiritualizing effect. It's not conscious. The chair doesn't become conscious. The microphone doesn't become conscious. It becomes spiritualized. So there's distinctions, and at the same time, non-distinction, or oneness. It's subtle, isn't it?
It's yeah. At some point, because the impersonalistic understanding that everything is Brahman, so I'm just hoping that my understanding is not that, it's the same energy that's going to be displayed one way or the other according to our disposition. Rather, again, sorry to repeat, I think, but both are there in Krishna's, both are the energies of Krishna. Well, distinct.
Let's go back to the example that we've been hearing over and over again, what Brahma saw, was it the cowherd boys were in the cave? Are they just like duplicate cowherd boys, or were they spiritual potency, Swarup Shakti cowherd boys that just look like the ones that were in the cave? They were spiritual. They were Krishna, looking just like the cowherd boys that were in the cave. So there's the spiritual and the material. And so they're still the cowherd boys in the cave. But Krishna's energy is not limited. That's, the difference. So the chair isn't going to become, get up and walk and talk and jump around and dance together with you. That's a cartoon, but it's not, it's not what the spiritual energy means. But it's going to act in it, reminding you of Krishna, or having a potency that assists you in remembering Krishna. You'll see in connection with Krishna. So there are distinctions of the potencies, external, internal, Swarup Shakti and Bahiranga Shakti. There's distinction. But it's one energy, and in another sense, because that Bahiranga Shakti can act in a way to invoke Krishna consciousness. Like Kadiri, for example. Okay?
One question on related to chanting, because while you were speaking about the reality and illusion, especially trying to distinguish, my thoughts somehow went to the Festival of Holy Name classes, where you touched this topic in many classes. So while chanting, especially while chanting, experience has been when the mind goes to different thoughts. I was learning after hearing your classes during the Festival of Holy Name that that's all illusion. Most of the times what we think, where we invest our consciousness, to be illusion, rather the Holy Name is the reality. So could you explain, or could you elaborate, because we hear that the material energy or the illusion energy cannot influence Krishna, but when we take shelter of the Holy Name, how does the spiritual potency influence Krishna, that maybe we may get some mercy from him, that hopefully will set us in the right path?
The preamble is clear right up to you're asking your question, it became unclear. Just don't do the whole preamble. Just watch the novel, the hawks. What would you like to hear me speak something more about?
So when we actually direction to Holy Name,
Krishna is fully pure. Krishna is fully transcendental. Krishna is Krishna, and we're covered. So is your question how we to connect with that which is fully spiritual when we're covered?
No, I was trying to understand that as long as I'm, if I am taking the shelter of internal potency, how does that influence or inspire or affect Krishna to help me, or to help me receive mercy?
It has everything to do with your love or your eagerness or sincerity, or taking this theme, yearning, enthusiasm or eagerness, and spontaneous. So proportionate to your regard for Krishna, proportionate to in degrees. It can be remote, it can be closer, it can be intense. One of the points that was repeated not too many times, but a number of times, with regard to the residents of Vrindavan, their love is very intense. Not that, let's say, for example, Uddhava is not a non-intense person. He's not a kind of mediocre person. But when he saw the love of Mother Yashoda and Nanda, whoa, what to speak of the gopis? And so forth. So very strong. And there's a price. It's letting go of the temporary. And that we're proportionate to. We can't have both. Strong attachment with the temporary and very intense attachment for Krishna. In chanting or anything that we do. Let's go to online.
Shri Radhika Mataji has a long question.
Oh.
Did I understand correctly that if we say that attributes inherent within their possessor, then the Lord can be culpable of Maya's actions? Therefore, Lord Chaitanya's philosophy only attributes Yoga Maya as intrinsic to the Lord. However, there are actions of Yoga Maya too that are odd to understand, such as Radharani's having a relationship with Lord Krishna as a paramour. So how does attributing Yoga Maya as intrinsic to the Lord keep the Lord irreproachable?
Easy. He's not associating with another woman. He's associating with his internal potency, his pleasure, his own pleasure potency. Distinct from a man or woman of this world that's associating with a member of the opposite sex without the lawful, religiously lawful association. Krishna is not in violation of that. Now, to understand how it's not in violation of that, one has to understand Krishna Tattva.
This Snegavalli Mataji has two questions and a comment. First one, do we know the reason of Yakula was enmity towards Krishna?
Whose?
Yakulaiva?
Ekalavya. Ekalavya. He's not exactly, what he wanted was demoniac. He wanted the powers of Drona without the blessing of Drona. Or, say it differently, he had bad character. And for recognizing that he had bad character, Drona was not prepared to teach him. So he went ahead and, tried to learn in a mystical way a deity of Drona. So it's a demoniac mentality. It's not really submission to the representative of Krishna or the submission to Guru, but he took the principle of submission to Guru to get what he wanted for his bad character purposes. So what's the bad character resting upon? It's resting upon the atheism. So you can say he was against Krishna. If he's part of Paundraka's group going off to try to kill Krishna, then he's against Krishna. That's explicit. The other is implicit.
The second question from Srinagavalli Mataji. I am surprised how our acharyas are supporting Lord Brahma's both statements. In verse 17, the commentary supported that the world is real, and in verse 22, the commentary is supporting that
world is unreal, it is art to understand.
Yes, it is. But look in verse 22, purport, and it's both real and unreal. And that's the depending upon how you look at it, that's how we're to understand. We discussed it in the morning class, and it went something like this. One can think of the world as real in the sense that there's a touch of reality because of its connection to the Supreme Lord, but not fully. It appears to be real because of that connection with the Supreme Lord. And the proper way to see it is not that it's exactly real or unreal, but it's paraphernalia to be used in Krishna's service. And there's us, there's the Lord, and there's the paraphernalia for the Lord's service. And then the sense of reality becomes restored. The influence of illusion is diminished. And that's the test or the challenge, or going back to your concerns, sometimes it's real, sometimes it's said to be unreal. What's going on? I'm confused. You're right on topic. Your question is right on topic. And it's similar to Mangalananda's question, Madhamangal's question, about is it one potency or two? It depends on how you regard it. It can be spiritual. We can be, like Prabhupada said, it's more than once. This temple is not in the kingdom of, it's not in the material world, it's not in New York, it's not in Los Angeles, it's Vaikuntha. Well, we're definitely in New York, we're definitely in Los Angeles, we're definitely in Chicago. But it's not, it's in Vaikuntha. So, it's consciousness. And so, depending upon consciousness, one will see real or unreal. That's how to take it.
Yes.
Next.
Next question is from Radhika, Navati Mataji's daughter. What is the difference between Yogamaya and Mahamaya?
Both, the similarity of them is one will not be conscious that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Yogamaya helps us, those who are involved in Yogamaya, spiritual potency, become so intimately connected with Krishna that it becomes less important who he is than your love for him. That's Yogamaya. Particularly Yogamaya as it works in Vrindavan. And Mahamaya is just it's illusion. It's covering ourselves, it's covering Krishna, it's covering the proper understanding of material nature is coming from Krishna. It just deludes us in degrees, of course, according to the modes of nature, trying to become enjoyers of material nature. That's Mahamaya, the deluding potency. One's connecting you to Krishna, the other is taking you away from Krishna. That's a simple answer.
Yes. Vishaka, Atulya Mataji's daughter, has two questions. First one, what do we need to do to go back to Godhead? And second question is related, what are the things we need to do? Actually, like it's saying, like, what are the things we need to do to go back to Godhead?
This is Vishaka.
Yes.
She's 6. So I have to say it as a 6-year-old can understand it. because you're born in a devotee family, one can understand, Vishaka, that you have in previous lives been engaged in devotional service prior to this lifetime, but you didn't complete the process of devotional service, and so you're given a head start in this life to be born in a devotee family and engage in the activities of devotional service, taking prasadam, hearing kirtan, associating with devotees, hearing Krishna stories, and all those things. Learning to be clean, learning to be truthful, learning to be respectful. So these are foundational, but direct devotional activities. So I think for somebody that's like you, that's been born in a devotee family and has all these resources just at your fingertips, to feel very grateful to Krishna. Gratitude is the message. Feel grateful to Krishna and try to offer back to Krishna that good fortune that's been given to you. To go back to Godhead, we have to come to the stage of love for Krishna. When there's love, it's so important to you, everything becomes secondary because it's so important to you. The object of love becomes so important to you that other things become secondary. So the seed of love is gratitude. Gratitude is the seed of love. So be grateful to Krishna. Consider what Krishna has given you. Without listing the things you consider, you discuss with your mother and father and your sister, what are the things that Krishna has given you? Make a list and acknowledge those gifts that Krishna has given you with gratitude. And then you take those things that Krishna has given you and you offer them back to Krishna with love as an expression of your gratitude. And as your love grows, you'll be eligible to go back to Godhead.
Amara Mataji has two questions. First one, are Krishna's Maya, the temporary material nature, inferior energy and illusory energy, all different terms for same energy?
There's different aspects of the same energy, yes.
Second question, devotional service can also be done in three modes, that is under influence of Maya. What are some symptoms that one's devotional service is not affected by Maya?
The answer to that question you'll find in the same place you're probably thinking of, but Canto 3, Chapter 29, Bhakti in the modes of nature and Bhakti that's free from the modes of nature. And you'll find directly, there's 3 verses in a row that describe it. But the first verse, the essence verse, is where the mind goes to Krishna without any effort. Just by hearing Krishna Katha or topics about Krishna, Krishna's name, the mind just goes. No effort required. Those are symptoms.
Yes, Snegavalli Mataji has a follow-up question. I am failing to see the connection that how his commentary supports Lord Brahma's statement that the world is unreal. Jiva Goswami's commentary.
Well, you're asking the same question again. And it's the same answer again. It's unreal in the sense that it's temporary. It's real in the sense that it's from Krishna and can be connected to Krishna in service.
That's it, Maharaj.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.